So yeah, I think
what
with
do you
acting,
think about when people, because there's a huge community, especially in Asian community, who get really upset too.
Oh yeah,
and
of
I think that's
course.
part of the reason why people
Yeah.
want to cast exactly what it's said to be. But I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, there's so many people who are, you know, it's hard. It's like it's hard to balance that. It's like you don't want people to appropriate, like you don't want it to be whitewashed, but at the same time, where do you draw the line? You know,
Well,
because
I think you draw the line when creatively you will sort of harm the project. For example, like there is a part that I've, you know, politely turned down because the role was Mandarin speaking and they were only going to give me like 2 to 3 months of dialect coaching. And I didn't think that was enough for me to be able to truly pass. And I knew about 3 actresses that I thought were amazing and perfect for the part and friends. And so I just passed it along and it was great for them. But I think for me, I knew that as an actor, I couldn't do that well. And so I think for me, and I hope other actors, it's really just comes down to, can you tell the story well?
Right.
Can you tell it without sort of disturbing, I guess,
the main idea and
right,
concept,
right.
The authenticity of where
Exactly.
the whole project is coming from.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think if it's a character where, I mean, even if it's someone who, even though I speak Korean, if the film is about someone who like comes from Korea, doesn't speak English, I don't think that I would probably be the best for the part.
Right.
There's going to be other actors that are great for it. But I think if it's a girl from Hong Kong and she's supposed to be ethnically Chinese, but she's in America, or even if she grew up in Hong Kong, but she went to like international school, I think I could play that because I speak English.
Yeah.
And I've been to Hong Kong and
now when you go into
feel
casting,
comfortable.
you should bring in your DNA results and be like, look, I am actually, I think most people like, I mean, because our parents, you know, a lot, especially first gen, not that mines are, but a lot of parents of friends that I know are very proud, obviously. Like Asians are just, I mean, they fight amongst each other even.
Yeah.
But that's
you
the
know?
main problem. I think underlying issue is there's a lot of racism within the Asian culture. There's so much racism even from Koreans to Korean Americans and people in China to Chinese Americans, and then not to mention, you know, Korea and Japan and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. There's so much racism that is within the Asian cultures that causes all this animosity. So the issue really isn't casting, because I think right now, and what I always tell people is we just need more stories. You know what I mean? And I think, for example, like Jessica Van, a good friend of mine, she is not Korean, but she plays the lead in Soul Searching, which is about Koreans going to Korea to find out about their identity, but they're adopted Koreans. And she absolutely kills the film.
Yeah.
And it makes me so happy. I've seen it like 7 times and I'm so proud of her. And as someone who is ethnically Korean, I'm really, really happy that she portrayed that character so well. And I don't think anyone else could have done it as well as she did. And to me, if that movie helps her build her career, then she will one day be at a place where she can then talk about who she really is. And she speaks Mandarin. She does a lot of things. And now we understand more about Asians. You know what I'm saying? Whereas I think if we block those opportunities, and if Asians are the ones complaining about miscasting, then casting directors are just going to cast white. And I've heard this a lot. Like they'll be like, oh, it's an anime, we need Japanese. And they're like, oh, we can't find Japanese actors and you're Korean and you're Chinese. They're like, we just don't want to upset people. So we're going to upset people anyways. Yeah. We'll just cast white. And so I'm always like so frustrated when I hear that. And so that's why one of the reasons why like I love sharing sort of casting information with a lot of my actor friends is that I hope it stays ethnic. Yeah. Because we have a smaller pool to choose from. You know, I think that's why when other ethnic, like I think that's why when Caucasians are like, oh, well that role was supposed to be white and it went to a black actor or it went to an Asian actor and they get upset about it. I'm like, are you serious right now? We have less opportunities to choose from to begin with.
Yeah.
You know,
but I mean, they're seeing it from a like principle standard. There's, you know, because there's such a heavy push behind anything, there's always going to be a counter action. I mean, I agree. Obviously they've dominated the realm. But I can see what they're trying to say, like based on principles, like, well, technically, you know, if that person in the story is Asian and you cast white, you guys would be upset. So why are you allowing this white person in this story being cast as something else? So I could see what they're trying to say, but I also see what you're trying to say. Yeah. I think there's gonna be a lot of Asians that disagree with you. Yeah. And I've already seen it. And I just sit back, just like to me, I think, I mean, it's very important to your specific job.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted you to speak about it, because you deal with that all the time.
Oh, of course. And of course, there's always a part of me that's going to try to be considerate of what people will feel and, you know, how it might be perceived. But I always tell people, you have to think about it this way. Wouldn't you want a show like Fresh Off the Boat to exist and to be great as it is, or them to have just not done it because they couldn't find the father? Because Randall Park is great. Mm-hmm. He's so great, but he's not Chinese.
No, he's Korean.
But I think he's great.
Yeah.
And
See,
so
but the
I don't
thing
think
is,
that
though,
should be an issue. You know what I'm saying?
It also shouldn't be, because most of those people, most Asian ethnicities are not 100% anything.
Right. And so that's why I'm saying I think the people who are upset are the ones that are extremely prideful and, I'm sorry to say this, racist.
Yeah, it's people who take a lot of, I think this is where it comes from. It's parents who take so much pride in their culture, which is a great thing. Mm-hmm. But I mean, if you're really breaking it down, I think that's what it is based on. It's like, this is a culturally Korean thing, but like just like you're culturally Korean, but technically you might not be full Korean.
Right.
Technically.
Right.
Unless we find out later down the road, all these DNA tests were all scams.
Yeah.
We had no idea.
Honestly, I kind of felt like
there's a possibility.
There is a possibility.
We don't know enough
I
about
have
it.
heard that there's just not enough data for Asian people, which is why the tests all came out so different. Right. So I was recommended to do it again in a couple of years once the data pool has increased.
The data pool.
Yeah, the data pool.
Higa.